Hey guys, welcome to my channel, Realm of Ori. In this video, we will continue with Volume 16, Chapter 3, Toward Rebuilding, Part 2. And before we start, this video contains spoilers from the Tensura Light Novel. And by the way guys, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click on the bell icon to get notifications for upcoming videos. So without further ado, let's get into the video.
Diablo and Xion were with me, but that was just the way things were. Thank you, Rimuru. You knew this was going to happen, right? It would have taken a day to travel from Dwargon to the capital Rimuru, even with the Pegasus. But now that magic circles had been established in both capitals, it was possible to move instantly back and forth by magic. So, I thought that he must have come all the way to the border to call me. Ha ha ha, so you noticed? Not funny, but not a big deal either. Just glad Velgrynd can be so accommodating, I suppose. That is the thing. You're not planning to join the Empire, are you? So that's what Gazel was really worried about. That's the general idea, but it depends on what's being talked about. Hey, wait a second. I'd like to know what you think about it. There was no justification to decline, so we headed to a coffee shop close to the border. The clerk moved quickly to get me a seat. Also, the customers, who seemed to be adventurers, saw what was going on and got up. I felt bad, so I told everyone that I would pay the bills here. Everyone was happy, so I knew everything would be fine. There were about 30 minutes left until the meeting was supposed to start. We might have to leave right away, so I planned to listen to him until the very end. Before that, I'd start by saying what I wanted to say. About leading you to clean up after the war. No problem. Even now, it's hard for our soldiers to work at full capacity, but that's only because we made it. I'm grateful. No one would hold a grudge against you. What was it you wanted to ask? I want to know what you think. You don't want to work with the Empire to attack me and Dwargon, do you? What does this old man have to say? I would never go through all that trouble. There was no reason to, and, more importantly, there was no good reason to. On top of that, if we did that, the Western nations would stop trusting us. It was totally out of the question. No. The trust we've worked so hard to build would be gone in an instant. We would also lose a reliable backer and have to do more work than we needed to. How stupid do you think I am to ask me such a question? I answered with a look of irritation, and Gazel started laughing, looking genuinely happy. Hey, what were you worried about? My apologies, Your Majesty Rimuru. All of these accusations were my own ideas. So, I take full responsibility for making you feel bad. I'm sorry, and I hope you'll forgive me. Dalsan must have seen how annoyed I was and apologized for it. I asked him to say what he meant in more detail. Simply put, if the Empire and Tempest worked together, Dwargon would be stuck between the two. In this situation, using force would be a bad idea and would lead to a loss of diplomatic power. If a country said it wouldn't listen to the arguments of an opponent it didn't fear, it would have to accept bad terms in future talks. He was afraid of this, so he wanted to make sure it was true. Huh? But Dwargon couldn't stop that no matter what, could he? Even though I don't want to start a war, I think it's a good idea to join forces with the Empire. You're right. At the end of the day, it all depends on what you want. Even though Dwargon has a lot of power, Velgrynd and Veldora, the true dragons, are stronger than us. Even though Dolph's worries are pointless, I can't tell him that because I'm a king. Gazel told me this with a very serious look on his face. As the leader of his people, the king must always be ready for anything. This time, though, there was no reason to worry. But we couldn't be sure that we wouldn't start a war either. Even if we didn't start one, if the Empire did, the situation would be the same. Whose side would Tempest really be on if the Empire attempted to attack Dwargon, assuming that the Empire and Tempest had forged an alliance? If you asked me that, I wouldn't know what to say. Rimuru, do you understand? To stop your country from going to war, you chose to join forces with the Empire. That's fine, but it didn't take into account what was going on in Dwargon. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, though, because you're only responsible for the people you live with. On the other hand, I can't just let it happen. Yes, I did believe. Even though Tempest was friends with both Dwargon and the Eastern Empire, that did not mean that Dwargon and the Eastern Empire were also friends. If these two countries went to war, it would be hard for us to move around. But wait. But since we have mutual military cooperation in case of a national emergency, well, there's no deadline for that, is there? There is no such thing as an agreement that will last forever. All of them are short-term agreements that can only give you peace of mind for a short time. In fact, you could make the case that a contract with a fixed term is safer. Just as I was trying to figure out what he meant, Seal coached me in secret. I see. So even if we are on good terms with the Empire, the agreement could still be broken. That's why you traveled so far to get here. I'm glad you understand. Yes, that's something you should worry about. Understood. So, even if we decide to join forces with the Empire, we'll talk carefully about the details. When I told Dolph-san and the others that, they all looked relieved. Take a look. You are worrying too much, I told you. King Gazel spoke the words quickly. Where had all of his kingly duties gone? Rimuru-sama, it's almost time. Shion looked at her watch and told me. It was one of the watches I had crafted as a hobby with Kaijin. I gave it to her as a gift because I thought a secretary should have one. When she got it, she was very happy. We all liked it because it gave Shion something else to do. Let's go. Kufufufu. Then I'll open the portal. The meeting that was called on the spot was over. We left the coffee shop and headed back to the conference room. It's 10 in the morning. Everyone was in the conference room at the same time. The participants sat at a half-round table with a hole in the middle. Or, the table was in the shape of a C for an eye test. The Swiss eye doctor Edmund Landolt came up with this design, which is called the Landolt ring, in 1888. It's great that you're so detailed, but I don't want to get into all that right now. Please just explain the main points. Through the hole in the table, one could go in and out, making it easy to bring tea and items to each person. Also, a big screen was put up at the end of the gap so that everyone who attended the meeting could see it from any angle. It was determined that this shape would be more appropriate than simply facing each other because the meeting would be attended by the three major powers. I was in the seat facing true north, Rimuru was in the seat facing northeast, and Velgrynd was in the seat facing northwest. As usual, Shion and Diablo weren't sitting down, they were standing behind me. The Imperials were on the eastern side. Masayuki was in the seat facing east, and Velgrynd was in the seat facing east-northeast to his right. General Calgurio and Major General Minutes were in charge of his southern flank. Jiwoo and Bernie weren't sitting down, they were standing behind Masayuki. Gazel and his group sat on the western side of the table. They had come quickly. Gazel was sitting in the westmost seat. Dolph, the leader of the Pegasus Knights, sat in the northwest seat, and Jane, the court mage, sat in the southwest seat. The Admiral Paladin Vaughn and the head of the Knight Assassins Anrietta stood and acted as guards instead of taking their seats. So, this is how the three groups met each other. I just happened to look around in time to see Masayuki, whose eyes seemed to be going in different directions. His face was worn out, as if to say in a poetic way, why am I in this situation? But don't worry. I had the same feeling. I felt like we were close, so I wanted to assist him if anything went wrong. Testarossa, who was in charge of running the meeting, stood up and got everyone's attention. She walked to the front of the room and started with a few words of welcome. Now that the time has come. Everyone seems to be here, so I'd like to start the meeting. I had already asked her to help me if anything went wrong, so I was sure that Testarossa would live up to my hopes. First of all, I'd like to talk about what this meeting is for. Because this is a high-priority meeting that wasn't planned in advance, people may say things they didn't mean to. In that case, I'd like to ask you to keep your cool and listen to what the other side has to say before getting angry. As my country's representative in the Western States Council, Testarossa was used to being in these kinds of situations. I kept watching Testarossa with the hope that everything would go well until the end of the meeting. Let's start by making sure we all agree on the final goals of this meeting. We would like to reach a deal with the Imperial side to end the war. And on the Dwargon side, we'd like to sign a new treaty based on how we'll work with the Empire in the future. Is that right? No objection. Velgrynd answered before Masayuki could say anything. Yes, I don't object. Gazel did the same thing at the same time. I was a little late with my answer, but I didn't get upset and just spoke up. Since that's the case, how about we take a look at the status quo first? My voice was a bit strange, but who cares? I watched how both sides reacted while keeping a natural look on my face. Masayuki was giving me a respectful look. What a cute guy. Yes, I agree. I also think I'm pretty cool. Since there doesn't seem to be a problem, I'll let Testarossa explain. My remarks will come afterward. If there are any doubts or questions, I will answer them and fix any mistakes. Then, please explain. Everything went as planned at the meeting. After asking that no one bother me, I let Testarossa take over. Testarossa began to explain. She told Gazel and the others things about the battle on the blimp that they might not have known. Then I made an effort to explain to them how Emperor Rudra had actually been possessed by a skills-conscious will. Before that, right after I beat Velgrynd in battle. Wait. Gazel spoke up first. Huh? If you want to talk, please wait until then. That's not what I mean. Have I done something odd? King Gazel, is there a problem? I had no choice but to be shy and ask. Gazel held his head up and looked at me. He then looked at Velgrynd and began to speak in a solemn way, but didn't say anything. I know it is rude. But will Velgrynd-sama allow what King Rimuru just said? Gazel was using honorifics, which was very odd. Even Velgrynd was called Sama by him. This didn't seem like something a king of a big country should do. As I watched what was happening, Velgrynd smiled and didn't get mad. It's all right, King of the Dwarves. You are very smart and careful. You would make a much better king than Rimuru. Since you became a sword saint, Rudra has been talking about how he wants to take you under his wing. Also, I know who you are and don't dislike you. Don't be so formal, just chill out. Yes. But you, the protector deity of the Empire and one of the most formidable true dragons, in the public, it's nothing to worry about. I'm not going to do anything. You're Rimuru's friend, aren't you? I won't fight if that's the case. After all, Rimuru was right when he said what he did. He defeated me. Well, I didn't expect that. I thought Velgrynd would do what Veldora did and say that she hadn't lost in order to save face. But instead of fighting, she gave up easily and with grace. This surprised me, but the others seemed to be more shocked than I was. What? Velgrynd-sama lost? I cannot believe it. The myth of being unbeatable. The imperial congregation, which had been taught to be quiet while Velgrynd was in charge, had broken their silence and was now in chaos. What? Hey, are you kidding? You beat that being who was like a god and couldn't be beaten no matter what? I can't believe it, but if she acknowledges it, I guess that means you're not lying. Dalsan was confused, and Von-san couldn't seem to accept the truth. For some reason, Amrietta-san was smiling at them as well as King Gazel. Fufufu, I'm so relieved I do not need to report this time. People would have thought I was crazy if I told this story. Isn't that being rude? Since it was a foreign country story and I didn't think it was appropriate to get into it at this time, I decided not to stop her. As I watched from afar, Jane-san called out to Gazel, "You all, including Gazel boy, need to calm down." I'm no longer even surprised. By the time I saw the Evolution Festival, I had already grown weary of and surprised by the primordials and realized it was foolish to continue to be shocked. It appeared that Grandma Jane had gained knowledge. That's why she was the only one who could stay calm during this time. With those words, the people on Dwargon's side came to their senses. They were embarrassed, so one by one they straightened up. The response from our end was, incidentally. What? Rimuru-sama has won against Velgrynd-sama, then. Are we going to have a party tonight? Rigger did find every chance to have a good time. You didn't think I wouldn't win at first, did you? Well, that's what I thought. Or, more precisely, I was watching it. Benimaru, this guy, told me he was watching me. Although it sounds like someone heard you. What do you mean, Benimaru? No way. Did you watch Rimuru-sama battle with such majesty by yourself? No, That's not how it is. It was my job to find out how the battle was going, so just a little. He looked like he was trying hard to come up with an excuse, but that was one of Benimaru's flaws. On the other hand, Diablo. Kufufufu. Oh, Xion, you didn't see it, did you? It makes me sad to hear that. It's too bad that you weren't there to see such a great battle. Don't make her mad. Don't make her angry. Didn't anyone bother people better than this guy? Testarossa was surprised and sighing. She thought that no one could be as annoying as Diablo. Please stay calm, everyone. Xion and Diablo might have fought if she had been one step behind. I praised her in silence. Good job. After everyone had a chance to calm down, the meeting went on.